Hello, hello.
Hey, girl.
Hey, how you doing? So we are live. We are live. We are mother freaking live.
Look at God. Won't he do it?
Won't he do it? We're actually here. I'm proud of ourselves. So we're gonna wait a little bit, give people a little time to come in. Um, while we just sip a little bit, talk a little bit. Um, and we'll start. So we'll start around 6:05 Central Standard Time. So that's in 3 minutes. For real, for real. How y'all doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to share this link with somebody via text message so they can join us.
How you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing well, just been writing and at Starbucks since I woke up this morning. So I just made it home like
That dude getting that dissertation stuff together.
kicking
So
my
Starbucks is now allowing people back in.
Say what?
yeah.
Starbucks is now allowing people back into the. At one point they had stopped because of the pandemic.
It's girl. Well, in Tennessee, they been open that up. People sitting up in there chilling.
Here in Texas too.
Okay, not in Atlanta. Atlanta die at your own risk. So
I don't think y'all ever had rules in Atlanta. I saw
Hey Tiff.
I saw strip clubs open in March, like y'all wasn't caring. April.
Strip clubs was open in May. However, that was still way too early.
Right.
The fact that you know specifically when a strip club was open though.
I have some friends.
Village.
I have a few friends who frequent. I don't go, but they go, so they tell me these stories.
Hey D, nothing wrong with a little
Nah, I don't
dance here and there.
I don't make enough.
Okay. Okay, that's cute. Hey Shay, what's good? So we're about to start in 1 minute.
I got my notes pulled up, so just in case, making sure we good.
I have my notes too. Yo, this is the first, we're not edited this time. So Brandon.
Brandon.
Are we gonna see guns this episode?
What? What are you talking about? Maybe.
Wait. I forgot about
Brandon, are we going to see guns this episode?
No, we're not going to see any guns. I am going to be professional and unbiased and nonpartisan. I'm not going to show that side.
Nonpartisan.
Yeah, that's how I approach like politics and education. I try to come from a nonpartisan standpoint.
All right, Professor.
Come on, Swift.
Hey, Trish. Look at Tiffany talking about please show the guns. No, she good. She good.
So I've never done this app before. Squeeze, you're the only one who can see the comments and the people who join. Or Brandon, can we see it? I don't know.
We can see it.
Where do we see it at?
Where is it?
Don't say like comments.
Okay, I was in full screen mode. That's why. Okay.
All right, so let's start. Hello, everyone that's joining. Thank you so much for joining Champagne Conversation live. This is the first time we've ever been live. So, but the people who have been on the show are familiar with the show. We really believe in editing because we have some people who is just reckless, and so we have a saving grace. Professor Swift. And so now that we are live, we just gonna see how this thing roll. Just pray for us as we go through this thing. So for the people who are aware, who are not aware, we're gonna keep it exactly how we normally do, but it's just gonna be a live version. I am your host, Quez. Okay, Quezzy, or whatever. And I have two people who I trust when it comes to this whole political realm. What's going on with the country right now and the world and the uprising. I thought that it would be very not You feel attacked, whatever. I feel like it would have been very unwise for me not to have a show talking about our voice and the importance of voting. And I understand why people feel like their vote don't count. Like what's going on right now, I get it, right? But I don't know anything really when it comes to politics. So I use my resources and reach out to the two people that I know is going to keep it a buck with me, say what it is, and they actually have experience in this world. So I'm going to push it to Brandon, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself. And then Jasmine's going to tell you a little bit about herself. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit myself. And then we're going to start this whole show. All right. So, Brandon, we'll start with you.
Okay, so for those that do not know, my name is Brandon Ward. I am a native of Lake Village, Arkansas. Was originally born in San Diego, California. My mother was in the Navy and my father was in the Marines. So they had me in San Diego, and I lived with my mother for most of my life, but my father was a very active part of my life. Graduated from Lakeside High School in 2007. Attended Jackson State on a band and academic scholarship. So I saw the BET HBCU thing yesterday. You saw the section on Jackson State and Sunday Boom of the South. I marched in that band for 2.5 years. Some of the best memories of my life. But what I majored in political science as well, but it's interesting because I wasn't going to major in political science at first. My best friend and I had a conversation before I actually went to school. He asked me, like, what are you going to major in? I was like, well, I'm going to major in pre-law because I was anticipating going to law school. He was like, okay, so if you don't go to law school, what are you going to do with that major? I did not have an answer. I was like, okay, so we major in something that's close to it, but if you want to do something else, you still could if you don't go to law school. Like, okay, cool. So that's what got me to major in political science. I fell in love with political science once I got there. Had some of the most amazing professors, Dr. Ori, Dr. Theodore, Madison, Newton.
Yeah.
I can't remember the one from Africa, but he was horrible. I won't count him.
Naboso.
I cannot Naboso. He had some great professors, and they really imparted a lot of knowledge in me when it came to politics and political science. So once I finished my bachelor's degree in political science, I went back and got my master's degree. And I worked for the United States Attorney General's office in the Southern District of Mississippi. I've worked for the United States House of Representatives. I worked on a few campaigns, and I've also taught political science courses since 2015 at two different institutions, Jarvis Christian College and Houston Community College. And I'm currently working on my doctorate degree now and Doctor of Education in Ethical Leadership. And that's kind of been my journey.
Come on with the flex. Come on with the flex.
And I will be done with my doctorate degree in the May of 2021. So yeah, I'm anticipating defending my dissertation in January. So I'm
yeah. Period. What about you, Jazz?
Hey guys, I am J Love Cockfield, and I am originally from New Orleans. I currently reside in Atlanta with my husband. We relocated here in 2015 and went to Jackson State in the fall of 2007. The Jackson State University in the fall of 2007. I initially thought I was going to Tuskegee. If you knew me in high school, I had the t-shirt, I had the tag on my car. And I went and visited Tuskegee's campus one time and I was turned off after that. Not to say no love to Tuskegee, but by all means, it was a little rural for me, super rural. And so my mom, of course, is a Jackson State alum. And so she was always in the background, like, okay, well, there's still Jackson State. You still have an opportunity to attend the Jackson State University. So I received a scholarship from Jackson State. That was really a blessing. And I decided to major in political science because I thought I was going to law school to follow in my mother's footsteps. But one thing that I realized when I got to the political science courses was that you could actually have a career in politics and not necessarily have to go to law school. And so after graduating from Jackson State, I went and got my MPA at Rutgers. From there, I had a lot of great opportunities to work for some nonprofits. I still always did campaign work because it's a passion of mine. Like literally paying attention to exit poll numbers is my thing, right? I just absolutely love it. So I've been volunteering with campaigns literally since the age of 6 when my mother first ran for office, and she currently is running for office, selfish plug. If you know anyone in the city of New Orleans, the greater New Orleans area, please inform them to vote for her. She's running for the Supreme Court. And I think that I got involved in politics, one, because of her, but then also politics is who gets what, when, where, and why. And I really like to study it at. So this episode is important. It's critical. I hope that you take a few notes or just take some nuggets that Brandon and I, or even Sequez from a marketing standpoint may have that can really be critical in helping you to make the right vote, not only in this election, but in elections going forward.
Bet. So I am Sequez. I'm also from New Orleans. I've known Jasmine since high school. I've known Brandon Swift since college. I am completely a novice learner, nowhere when it comes to the politics realm, and so I don't know anything. So I was like, "Yo, let me get the people that do know, who's they nerded out." I would just tell y'all this. So we was in the group chats. We had a little group chat going on, and they was just talking and slinging facts, and I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. They were just so nerded out, and I was like, okay, this is their jam. So this is their time to shine and give you guys all the information and knowledge. So let's set the tone real quick. Be clear that this is an open dialogue, so please feel free to ask your questions in the comment section, and they're going to answer your questions. So if you need to go there, because we're going to go there already. But if you want to push it a little bit further, please feel free to go there. They're already prepared. So if you see us kind of look aside, we have notes on the side. Mm-hmm. So that we can go there with you. Hey, Nita. So again, welcome to the Champagne Conversation. I'm gonna let you know real quick. We all are drinking because that's what we do. Okay, we drink a little bit, we talk a little bit. So first, before we introduce what we're drinking, we're going to do an icebreaker. This is the part of the podcast that you guys don't usually see because that's before I start recording. But we're going to do the icebreaker live this time. So, are we ready for our icebreaker?
Yeah.
You ready for the icebreaker, Jazz?
Whoop, whoop.
Period. All right. So
Deshauna cannot answer this question.
They can answer. So the icebreaker, please feel free to comment your answer in the icebreaker, for the icebreaker in the comment section. If you went to the Jackson State University, you can definitely relate to what we're about to talk about. So the first icebreaker is, what is one JSU experience that you would like to relive? Okay, what one JSU experience that you would like to relive? I'm going to start with Swift because he was mad sketch in our group chat. And so I want to know, what's the one JSU experience that you would like to relive?
So it's so many. And it's hard to narrow it down to just one. But if I had to do one, I would choose two. And those two would be, the first one being Honolulu Week 2009, just that entire week. Not that jazz, but like the outdoor Moonlight Step Show. Just that entire week was just nice. And also, I'm sorry, three things. The Honolulu Week 2009. Also, when the Zetas did flip the script, and we came out as AKAs. I think it was in the Palisades. I still have those videos in my phone. Jazz might send it to you. Wow. Listen, crazy. It was so funny and so crazy. Like, it was amazing. It was a great experience. The third thing would be the football game between Jack State and Southern in 2010.
Oh, of course. Everybody's. Oh,
yeah, that's like
hands down.
Hands down. I would relive that entire game, that entire experience. All between the football game and the bands and everything leading up to the game. It was amazing. So that would be my experiences I would relive that I can think of off the top of my head. So
off the top of your head. Okay. What about you? Right, Maria? The Palisades. Anything in the Palisades, it went down.
Like, it was live.
I don't know if that's good or bad. But
Anything in the Palisades, it went down for sure. What about you, Jess?
So there are a lot of experiences. I mean, he got 3, so I'm gonna go with that clearly. Freshman year, it was you, me, Doris, TC, Tiffany. We all used to sit in the caf together. Like it was like if you went and ate in the caf without us, like it was some type of like dishonorable mention, right? Like it was terrible if you didn't eat in the caf with us. In our group that year. The other thing for me, I really thought about this, and I was like, what would you relive? And I had to close my eyes.
No, we're not on that one yet. Oh, yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Go ahead. Yes, we are. No,
and I had to really close my eyes and say, what would I really relive? What do you not get back in college? And I thought about senior year when your classes are minimal, or at least they should be, right? And it's the fall, and you're sitting on the yard, and the band is walking down the plaza to go to the practice field. It's like that feeling that you get, and it's the fall, and people are out, and it's the nostalgia of it all. It's just you don't get that fall senior year watching the band go to the field. Like this is not going to happen again next fall. So that one was really nostalgic for me.
Bet. So when I was thinking of this question, I was thinking about the question like, what would I relive? But what would I relive because I was so stupid, and like how I would have done it better. And I remember, I'm not gonna say names, but some people are in the chat. When we went to Q Delta weekend with these dudes, with one person, she met this dude on MySpace. Never met him before. I had no idea. We all get in the car. We stay at these strangers' house. We go to Q Delta, and one of my friends got thrown over the barricade. I got tased. One of them got mace in the. I got mace in the eyes. And it was just crazy. And they was trying to get the mace out my eyes, but I was only concerned about my hair. And I'm like, don't get the water in my hair. Don't get the water in my hair. And so if I could I would want to relive that moment to be more wise. Because, we could have died because we didn't know these dudes. It was just dumb. So when I was thinking of what I would do differently. So let's look what they say. So Brandon says the phone parties. There was nothing but chlamydia in them phone parties. Let's be real clear. The Palisades, the party in the States, the phone parties, homecoming, facts, 100%. It's okay, Joni, that you didn't attend. It's okay. I remember that year I was in the car watching it all. You sure was. I remember that. It was so bad. So bad. So next we're gonna go to what is your favorite on the plaza memory? Jasmine, we want to start with you.
On the plaza. Okay, that was part 2 to the question that I didn't think about. I'm gonna go to Brandon. Brandon, answer something.
She had hours.
Oh man, I go. So my favorite on the plaza memory. It's not really a memory. It's a moment that happens. If you at Jackson State, this has happened to you. Walking to class at a hot spot, homecoming. It don't matter. Walking down the plaza, passing by Alexander, and seeing Lil Joe right there with the flyers for the week, the little football. Y'all going to the I missed it. I saw a video of him recently. He's doing pretty good.
I did too.
Yeah, he's a little smaller, but just seeing Lil Joe and all that he embodies for Jackson State, that'll always take me back to my Jackson State days, seeing him and hearing him and seeing him with that cane and yeah.
Mm-hmm. The little waddle
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lil Joe.
So mine, I finally was able to think of it. My favorite memory was freshman year. We had all just moved in the dorm into Alexander. And there was a party. The SGA had threw some kind of welcome party the night we all moved in. And Soulja Boy was playing. And that was hot in the fall of 2007. And I can remember like, oh, this what college gonna be like? Oh, this about to be lit. Like, like it was so many people out and everybody was doing the Soldier Boy dance. It just was a really fun memory. Out of all the stuff we did on the plaza, from whether I strolled or watching the Greek stroll, sitting on the yard, whatever, that was the memory because it was like everybody was out there freshman year that first night.
So
I got one more. Hold on. Just
go
one more.
ahead. Which yours is? Which yours is?
So it's not really on the plaza, but it's right there on the plaza by Alexander. Spring 2009, when we was getting ready to come off, but we went off yet.
The panties.
Panty raid.
Panty raid. I knew he was gonna say that. Panty raid. I don't remember panty raid for anything.
Childish, bro. So childish, bro.
It was just our college experience. Like it was.
And then they had masks on, like you didn't know who was who.
Like exactly. We know. We see you, bro.
Okay,
we see you.
Okay, go to quiz.
Mine is Jasmine, I know you remember this. The year the New Orleans Saints won the Super Bowl.
Oh,
on a Sunday. Okay. The Saints won on that Sunday. We went to somehow, so Jasmine, myself, and some other people, we were all in the Louisiana Club. The Louisiana Club was none but New Orleans people, period. That's all it was.
Period.
It was just none but New Orleans people. And so I don't know how we connected, but somehow we all got on the plaza across the way from Alexander next to the finance building. And all the dudes did was just rib everybody. Like rib everyone. Vote for Trump or vote for. So anyway, so everybody so all they did was just rib everyone that so ribbon, if you don't know what ribbon is, it's like, what is it called? What's another word? Like Jones to Jones somebody or whatever. And they was just ripping people all, the whole entire day. And it was like people wanted to fight the boys so bad. But they just kept ripping people because we just felt so untouchable because the New Orleans Saints won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's one of my favorites. Favorite was Walter, Jared, Chalupa, all of just the ignorant, like not ignorant, but ignorant.
Will he ever be Chris? Like, I mean,
never.
Oh yeah, his name is Chris, huh? No, it won't. So let's start. Wait, hold on. So Maria said she still have a scar on her foot from whatever was in the water at the phone party. So I
bet she had fun.
There's a problem. That is a problem. But Eureka said my freshman year was when the AKAs did their reveal in the old plaza before the upgrade. We just chilled every night waiting for them to start boxing. Who boxing though? Who was boxing? So let's start. So Brandon, what you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking a cab. I'm keeping it, culture tonight. I gotta go work tomorrow, so just drinking a cab.
Okay. What about you, Jasmine? What you drinking tonight?
I am sipping on, I'm not sure, but it's a red blend and it's from Trader Joe's and it's aged on espresso. So it has like a hint of like coffee taste, but like aged wood, and it's a red wine. Okay.
I am drinking a Henny Rita. If y'all never had a Henny Rita. It's a spicy pineapple Henny Rita. So think of a margarita. Instead of tequila, you use Hennessy, and I have pineapple and jalapenos in here, and it is so good. I just trust the process. It's fire. So let's start. So everybody know, please feel free to ask your questions in the chat. Christy, I did see your question, and that's going to be one of our questions that we're going to ask. I don't want you to think I didn't see it. So let's start with the icebreaker. So we're going to do 2 icebreakers / pop quizzes. If you want to answer your the pop quiz / pop quiz, Jasmine, if you want to answer the pop quiz question, please put it in the chat. And if you do get it right, Jasmine, do you have your comment section pulled up?
I see the comments. Yep.
Okay, so if you get the answer correctly, we're gonna if you have Cash App, we're gonna Cash App you $10. But Jasmine's gonna pick whoever she sees first. Okay, so let's start. Jasmine, what's your pop quiz for tonight?
All right. So we all know that Black people traditionally within the past 50 to 60 years have been a part of the Democratic Party. That kind of gave away some of the answer. But when did Black people switch from the Republican Party allegiance to the Democratic Party allegiance? And if you don't even have the exact answer, give me a roundabout answer, because this is not something you can Google quickly. So it may take a minute, but when do Black people become allegiant to the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party? Kevin Lawrence said Nixon. No. Oh, Dr. Ori is in here. So I don't know if Dr. Ori should answer this. By the way, shout out to Dr. Ori. He's the chair of the political science department at Jackson State University. So big love to Dr. Ori. Eureka said the 1920s. No, not the 1920s. Keep going. If somebody get close, we'll see.
If y'all struggling with this one, y'all not gonna get Brandon, so that's for sure.
No, they will.
Nobody else is answered.
They're probably Googling it.
I know they should. We're gonna give you some time.
Okay, so if you have the answer, we're gonna
Come on, Dr. Ori.
Okay. Amira, because Dr. Ori can't play, right? Amira is the closest.
No, Fatima.
Amira's, wait, hold on. They're coming in.
No, Fatima said the 60s right before Ori did.
Gotcha. Fatima's the winner.
Okay. Fatima, send us a message and we'll cash out you. Okay, so let's kick it off. So when we talk, what'd you say? Might I say something? Oh. When you talk about the elections and the importance of elections and all those kinds of things, we normally think of the presidential election, right? That's usually the first thing that we think about. I know that's what I think about. But why do you think that we always think about the presidential election and not the local elections? Brandon?
Is that a question to me? That's what
yeah, that's a question to you. Brandon or Jasmine, whatever one, about what's the importance of the local elections and why we always overlook the local elections?
So I'll kick it off here. I think the presidential elections have a lot of hype around them versus local elections. Presidential elections happen every 4 years. So there's a little bit more buildup, whereas every 2 years there may be a midterm, or there may be a local, state rep or congressional office that's available or on the ballot. So I think that the presidential election, because everybody thinks politics, they think the president and down, but honestly, it literally should be your council person up, right? So I would say that that's why local elections are typically overlooked. It's because kind of the hype that's built around it.
So keeping on track with what Jazz is saying about the hype, when you look at the presidential elections and those large national elections, you see those officials raising a lot of money for those elections. I'm talking about in the millions of dollars. That money usually goes to political ads and other campaigning techniques to get their name out, to get people to go out to vote for them. On the local elections, that you really don't see that much money being raised. So you don't see as much coverage in the media with local elections as you do see on the national side. Also, you see research showing that voter turnout in local elections is low. It's abysmally low. A lot of that has to do with, like what Jazz is saying, those elections not being concurrent with the national election. So they don't receive as much attention, which means people don't know to go out to vote for them. And on top of not receiving that much media coverage, people just not coming out to vote. And also you see those incumbents of the, let me break it down. Incumbent is a person that already holds elected office and is running again for that same office. these local elected officials hold these offices for decades. Like, how long Benny Thompson and so many other elected officials being here until they die almost. So you don't really see many people come out to vote for them because they already know they're gonna win. I mean, it's a combination of things. And also, let me see another one. And you see disparity amongst the demographics that are voting. So those that own homes, that are wealthy, they are more than likely going to turn out to vote than those that are not homeowners and are on the low demographic scale. That's what research is showing. Which is going to get me to my next point later on about who gets their policy initiatives heard. Who is more likely to get their street paid? Who is more likely to get money go to the schools?
Yep.
We'll talk about that later. But those homeowners are really the ones turning out in droves to vote, whereas those that's poor are not really turning out to vote like that. So it's a combination of things that influence why voter turnout in local elections is so low. It shouldn't be because of the importance that I'm pretty sure we'll get into as well, but it's a combination of things.
And then I would also throw out that runoffs, which is once an election happens, if there's not a candidate that receives 50 plus 1%, then they'll have to go to a runoff. And statistically, the Democratic Party, Black representation, does not do well in turning out in runoffs, particularly whether or not if it's raining, that there are some stats around that. If it's the holiday season, which is why this election is critical that we turn out and we literally win as high as we can. The percentage has to be like 60-40, right? Like it can't be where there's a demographic that you have to, where there's a question of whether or not this person won. So again, local elections are critical, especially when we want them to win right out versus going to a runoff for whether it's Senate, U.S. Senate, local Senate, state Senate, rather, etc.
All right. So we know that it's overlooked, but we know that it should be crucial. And Jasmine made the point of instead of it going the president of the U.S. down, we should look, our community upward, right? So when we talk about the local elections, we know that even though it's overlooked, we talk about what happens with the local election impacts, right? When it comes to like the sheriff of the community, the school board, and everything in between. So when we talk about we want to help with police brutality, we should be voting for the sheriff. If you want to help with a better system, a better education for our kids, we should be looking at our school board and all that kind of stuff. What do you guys think about when it comes to making it a conscious effort to always make it a priority to vote on our local level so that we can have a better community when it comes to speed bumps, to traffic lights, to freaking potholes or whatever? All that happens on the local level, not the presidential level.
Brandon, you're on mute.
Brandon, if you're talking, you're on mute.
So I got it. I do want to emphasize when I say local, I do mean local and state. So one example of the importance of voting for your local officials and state officials. We've seen two hot media coverage killings of African Americans in the past few months with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. One of those cases got 3 police officers indicted almost immediately, and one is facing second-degree murder charges, whereas the other one, I don't think they got charged for anything but other than shooting in someone's apartment. If you look at the district attorney for those offices, one is ran as a Democrat and one ran as a Republican. And I'm not saying those two things dictate how people see these political officers or the outcome of these cases, but there is some correlation between being charged and the parties that they represent. Mm-hmm. It's local elections are so important that Ben and Jerry's actually put out an article about it, trying to enforce, get people to go out and vote. And since Ori is on, another thing that came up in my mind when I was doing research is you see now that Mississippi is getting ready to vote for another state flag, right? Mm-hmm. In the November election, either you vote for the new design or you vote to get away with the design and actually vote on another design in 2021. Well, this actually came up in 2001. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the reason Dr. Ori actually left Mississippi, because when he did his research and found out the attitudes that Mississippians had towards the state flag, he was what the heck, and he left.
Yeah.
But when I did further research, the NAACP actually sued to have the state flag changed, and it went all the way up to the Mississippi Supreme Court. The Mississippi Supreme Court said, no, this flag isn't changing. It doesn't impede on anyone's constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't change it. They struck it down and sent it back to the courts, to the congressional officers. If the Supreme Court would have been different, it could have been changed right then in 2001 or whenever this case was, 1993, I think. And we wouldn't have to get to this point. So that's one example or two examples of how voting in elections is important. We can also get to the school board and how money is allocated to these schools, K through 12, and how those funds are used to music programs, art programs, education, school books, so on and so forth. School board members dictate or have a say in how these funds are spent. They bring in principals and superintendents to work with these students and work with the community, these teachers. So if you don't have a good school board, then, also another important point, you're not going to really reach Donald Trump and say what it is you want to have done. You can tweet him, he's not going to respond. You're not going to reach a Nancy Pelosi. You're not going to reach a Chuck Schumer or a Ted Cruz or a Tom Cotton. Your city councilman may be your next door neighbor.
Yep.
Sheriff may be your next door neighbor. Like, these people are actually in the community. You can actually go to them at a sporting event or get your name put on the agenda to go and say, hey, this is what I want to see happen in our community. Make these changes, especially with this pandemic going on. Your mayors are making decisions that impact you every day. City councilman members are making decisions that impact you every day. Tax and controllers are dictating where your money goes. You need to know these things and hold these elected officials accountable, not just at the polls, but throughout the year when you see something that's not going your way.
And I'm gonna hop in here and just kind of talk about the judge's perspective, because again, this is a personal plug for me. Most judges are appointed by the state's governor. However, in some states like Louisiana, judges are elected. And so right now on the ballot in New Orleans, my mother is on the ballot for the Supreme Court of Louisiana. Now, most people in Georgia find that to be very shouldn't she be appointed? No, in some states it's elected. So the best thing for you to do to understand whether or not this person is elected or appointed, you really have to just research. I can give you, where you can go look those things up, but you really have to kind of do your own research to figure out, do I vote for the school board? Is the school board appointed? Like, you just never know in any particular state. Everyone is different. Thanks, Kevin. Mom is doing good. The election is going well. Selfish plug again. So she's on the ballot November 3rd. And if you have family in New Orleans or connections in New Orleans, we would appreciate you if you spread the word. And so then that kind of takes me to the other piece of it, is that people who don't vote, in my opinion, can't complain, right? So if you don't vote in the local election, or if you don't vote in your state election, or if you don't vote in the national elections, I've had some personal family members who did not vote in the last 2016 election who tried to complain about the current person in office. And I'm like, wait, you didn't cast the ballot, right? So again, you have to make sure that your voice is heard in local, state, and national elections.
And you know what? I'm gonna disagree with that.
No.
Let me tell you why and my reasoning behind it. So I hear that a lot. If you don't vote, then you can't complain and you can't say anything. These elected officials still have to represent the citizens to the best of their ability. Not voting does not stop you from participating in the political process. You can still go and speak with your elected representatives and say how you want your funds to be allocated, or who you want to represent. Your street is not paved. Not voting does not stop the elected officials from servicing or doing what they're supposed to do. They still have to do their jobs, and you still can hold them accountable.
If you don't go to work, Brandon, do you get paid?
Did I put in sick leave or vacation?
Okay, so Quest, next.
But no, that's not
He
even
knew what I meant. He knew what I meant. He knew what I meant.
But that's not how that works. But these are elected officials because if I don't go to work, I can still tell my boss if something goes wrong that day.
The importance, but even regardless, we want to make sure that
still
people vote. Because yes, it's still their job. Even if you're elected in office and you have quote unquote promised and made all these things that you're going to do, I'm gonna need you to follow through.
That's the point I'm making. If you don't vote, that does not stop you from participating in the political process. You can still talk to your elected representative and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is how you should fix it. This is where I stand on this policy issue. This is how I want you to represent me.
All right, so I want to move forward because I want to talk about HBCUs. All three of us are proud products of HBCUs, and when we talk about funding, right? So we, I think was it Jasmine? Jasmine, I think it was Jasmine who made such a great point of talking about the difference between the funding when it comes to the private institutions, your Howard, your Morehouse, your Spelman, versus your public institutions, the Jackson State University, Alcorn, or the other institutions that are equally important.
Correct.
How does voting relates to funding for public institutions?
I can start. So these elected representatives, when it comes to the funding formula, they set the formula funding for these institutions. For example, in Texas, if you have a class of 20 individuals in a history course, that course generates about $3,000, $3,700. Whereas if you have a class of 20 people in an engineering class, that generates around $9,000. The formula funding on its face seems nonpartisan or is equitable towards the institutions, but honestly, it directly benefits those larger institutions more than it does those smaller HBCUs or HBCUs in general. There is no real funding for being an HBCU at the state level, especially here in Texas. It's mostly based on the credit hours that your students are enrolled in and the amount of tenured professors you have, and that's about it. So the formula funding disproportionately affects HBCUs, and we don't receive the money that we need to get the students that we service. And it was a case in Mississippi that really touched on this Ayers case, and I think Dr. Madison was actually at the head of that case.
Rest in peace.
Exactly. Yeah, rest in peace. I love this class. So it's very unequitable towards HBCUs.
And then just to kind of go to the private side of it, just to kind of give the difference, because everybody I've seen, most of the people who are in the comments or other people typically complain, why does the Howards and the Spelmans and the Morehouses, why do they always get all of the money, or why do people only want to give to them? Well, for me, what I've researched and what I've seen is there's really a couple of key areas. So the first thing is that they're located in metropolitan cities. So Atlanta and DC, right, which is typically where there are a lot of corporations. Their alum are almost insufferable. Love them, married to one. But they are in those rooms and they speak up very proudly about their schools. So basically that's really just the marketing around it. But the third piece of it is that they're privately funded. So they don't receive state funding like a Jackson State would, or Mississippi Valley or Alabama State. So those schools have to survive on private funding. If they don't get that, they don't survive. So they may have some grants from the federal government, but they're not operating on the state or local budgets. So when you see those schools getting those millions of dollars and whatever, and we all get tired of seeing these articles, I think Morgan Stanley just this week gave $16 million. It's because those schools have to have private funders in order for their schools to sustain.
All right. So we're going to wrap up the local portion of this episode. Are there any closing remarks about local elections?
Absolutely. Get to know your judges because they influence and make decisions that impact what everything looks like, not only at this time, but moving forward, because a lot of the cases are built on what judges have made, decisions they made in the past, their precedent. Hold your elected officials accountable. Get to know who your elected officials are. Get to know who the state auditor or your city councilman, the mayor, school board members. Get to know who they are and speak with them not only during when it's time to vote in campaign season, but throughout the year, especially during those years when it's not a time for election, because they dictate where your money goes. If your street isn't paved, or your sewer isn't drained, or like I said, you got potholes. Get to know those people and ask them, why is this still taking place when we've asked you to repave this or do this for years? Especially if they've been in office 10, 20 years. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
And also, my last point here would be very leery of those candidates who only show up to your church, who only show up to the Little League baseball games or the daycare or at your door when it's election time. Yes, you have to get out the vote, aka GOTB. However, I think it's really critical that you start paying attention to those people who you only see coming to the church to shake hands and wave when it's time for the election. So we have to hold those people accountable as well outside of the November election date. So just as an example, here in Georgia, we have two key U.S. Senate races going on. You've got John Ossoff vying and you've got Raphael Warnock vying. However, once they're elected, because of course I'm claiming that they will be, in February, I want to know what their plans are. You said you were going to do this. Now let's see it happen, right? So stand on what you said you will do. And no one's perfect. And we know that things happen when you get to the Senate and you get to your local offices. Everything may not happen, but I need you to stand on at least 60 to 70% of your work.
Facts. All right. So now that we have talked about the local elections, I see Joni said something about echo. Photo op politicians.
Yep.
Those definitely do exist. Kim DeLosa, my mentor, she says she cast her votes for sorority. Of course, Kevin talked about how your mama doing. And only about 15% of turnout for Jackson mayoral election. Wow, that's horrible. So we're going to move on to the icebreaker pop quiz, and that is Brandon's. Brandon, the floor is yours when it comes to what will be your pop quiz.
Okay, it's not.
This is for $10 as well.
It's not that hard. I don't think so. Election season is coming up, and we are getting ready to vote for president, senator, so on and so forth. At one point in American history, you could not vote for senators. They were appointed, right?
Mm-hmm.
What changed to where senators were no longer elected by the United States Congress and elected by the people, or more so, which amendment was it and what year was it?
What was that question? Say the question again.
Okay, so which amendment changed the senators being elected from the Congress to the popular vote, and what year did that take place?
Now, I want to see how many people are going to answer that.
It's not that hard. It's Googleable, too.
Some people are going to try, like...
I want to see, while people try to Google that answer.
He's like in the 4th year of political science doctoral class. Like, what are you doing, bro?
It's not that hard.
I don't even know.
What amendment enacted, which amendment changed the senators being elected from Congress to popular vote? That's not hard.
Okay.
Please, some of us are
Joni said, please, some of us are slow.
correct. Eureka, 17. That's not even hard. That's not hard.
Oh, Rika got it right?
Yeah, 17.
Good job, Reek. I'll cash app you.
Yeah.
Question.
He said he's throwing out AP questions.
Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. We appreciate you, husband.
He's just throwing out AP questions.
Moving on.
So let's get to what the topic that everybody want to know. And Tristy asked this question literally 3 seconds into the podcast, and we're moving towards the presidential election. Mm-hmm. And so let's go to what I want to call, we're going to state the obvious, right? The state the obvious is president in 2016, Donald J. Trump became the 5th president to lose the majority vote to Hillary Clinton.
Mhm.
However, he won the election. Jasmine, why did he win the election?
It's a little thing called the electoral college versus the popular vote.
Pew, 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 pew. Electoral college.
So I'm going to give the keep it simple answer, and then Brandon's going to expound beyond me. So when we were in learning political science, anyway, when we were learning political science, one of my beloved professors said that the electoral college pretty much works like a party. Everyone gets an invite to the party. Everyone dances at the party. However, there are people who are wearing red and blue who get a ride home from the party, but then there are those who are wearing red and blue that stay at the party. So there's a little bit of an elitist mindset or an answer around not being equitable. So again, everybody gets an invite to the party. Everyone gets asked to dance at the party. However, there are people who are wearing red and blue who get a ride home, but there are people who are wearing red and blue that get left behind at the party. So from the more techie standpoint, I just wanted to give an analogy of how to make sense of it. Brandon will kind of give a little bit more expound upon how they're selected and things of that nature.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible.
Simple. We're not doing AP courses.
Right.
We want remedial.
Okay, so when you cast your vote for president, you are not really casting a vote for president. You are telling another person how to vote for president.
Yes.
What that means is there are electors that are selected by both the Democratic and Republican Party, their conventions, who actually cast the vote for president. And each state has a certain amount of electors based off the representation of their state. For example, this is called the Electoral College. California has 55 electors toward the Electoral College. That's because they have 53 representatives and 2 senators, right? So however many senators and representatives you have on a national level, that's how many electors you have.
Yes.
I think Texas has 33, one of them. So when you cast, you're telling your 33 electors how to vote for president. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So there are a total of 538 total electors. So there's 538 people at this party. You go up and you give one of them a drink and say, hey, vote for this person. And they go home and they vote for that person. The winner of the majority, the 51%, gets 100% of the electors. We want developmental, not one. Sorry, but I had class with Dr. Maria Harvey. I don't know about this developmental.
I can't.
No, yeah, they cast their votes in December. They cast 100% of the votes towards the presidential candidate that wins 51% of the state. So if there are 5 million people in Texas that vote for Biden, and he wins the majority, 51%, he only gets 33 votes, I think 33, toward the Electoral College.
How many votes do you need from the Electoral College to win the presidency, Brandon?
270. You need 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. So you can get to 270 electoral votes and not win the popular election, or not win the popular vote. It has happened, I think, 6 times, and I might be 3 times. It's one of those.
Right. What's the question?
It's happened a few times to where a president has won the Electoral College but not won the popular vote. I think Donald Trump had.
Donald Trump is the 5th president that does that.
Yeah, he lost the majority vote
by 3 million. Right. I think about it.
Trump is the 5th president who done that.
Right.
Won the majority, lost the.
So yeah, you basically telling the electors how to vote.
Correct.
Now, let's take a step further. So, even though you're telling the Electoral College how to vote, they still can vote the way that they want to vote.
In some states they can. I think it's around 33 states
Yeah.
that have enacted laws and policies that says if the majority of the state says vote this way, you have to cast your vote for this candidate.
Correct.
In 2016, we did see it's called faithless electors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have those electors that will cast a vote that goes against what the majority of their states said. I think Hawaii did in this most previous election. But there are a lot of states that enacted policies and laws to make sure they safeguard against this. But there are a few states that there are no laws or penalties that stop an elector from casting a vote that is different from what the majority has said. But another thing, the elector from the party that wins the majority is actually who cast the vote. So you won't see Biden win a state
Mm-hmm.
or cast a vote for Donald Trump because that's two different parts. So you wouldn't see that.
Okay. Now that we have that,
So
right?
just to throw a little piece in there too, Squeeze, is that when the framers of the Constitution put this together, they did this to make sure that mob rule didn't happen, right? So they basically wanted to make sure there was a group of people who oversaw what was happening from the popular standpoint. So when you hear that word mob rule or the mob, right, that some people are throwing around currently in regards to the Democratic Party, it comes from a certain era, and that's why.
And another thing, I'm not gonna get too much into it because I already said AP classes and whatever. I'm gonna touch on
I'm about to say, keep it. Listen.
But another reason for the electoral college is because not the Democratic, but the South at that time did not have as much population as the northern states.
Correct.
And there was a segment of the population that was not being counted for voting purposes, right? But they were counted toward 3/5 of the population, which kind of bolstered the South's standing in the electoral college and their standing in Congress. And of course, I'm talking about Black people.
Mm-hmm.
So Black people were counted toward the population for the standpoint of having the southern states more say in the electoral college, but they could not vote. So there's some debate about if the electoral college is racist.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue that, but that's another sticky.
Okay, come on. Okay, so Brainiacs, bring it back. Bring it back. Okay. So now we understand the electoral college, right? So we get it. So basically, for the people in the back, us people back here, we saying that there are some states, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are some states where you are required to vote for as the majority have voted. But there are some states that allow the electoral college people to vote how they see fit, right? Just to be clear. Okay, so we understand that it has history as to why the electoral college is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So now my question, what should we do both parties? Okay, so Tristy coming with the questions. Tristy, you going too fast for us. We got it, but we're not there yet. Okay.
We getting there.
Right. So now that we understand electoral college, now the real question that everybody really wants to know, which is the most debated question, is does our vote really count though? If we have the electoral college and you have people who are making decisions where some electoral members can vote the way they see fit depending on the state that they're in, and you have some people who are required to vote as the majority in that state, what's the point of us really voting then?
Because there's more elections on the ballot besides the presidency. So the electoral college is not going to tell who on your baby's school board, right? The electoral college is not going to tell who's on your city council to fix that pothole that's out in the middle of your street. The electoral college was put in place at the presidential executive level. That's it. The electoral college doesn't decide who's your senators. The electoral college doesn't decide who are your congresspeople. The electoral college, again, was rolled out when the Constitution was rolled out, when a time when there was less means of communication across the country. And so does your vote count? Yes, your vote counts. Because again, it's not only about the presidency, right? So if you're saying, does my vote count? Yes, it counts. It counts in local, state, and even federal elections. However, the Electoral College is a big debate, and it's currently something that both parties are having questions about. So this is not something that we're just talking about tonight and it's over. Like, you can research this, that this has been a debate for years upon years upon years. And I think that, Sequez, your question kind of leads into, should we go to a one man, one vote?
Should we do away with Electoral College and move to one man, one vote?
But before we get there, Ms. Rogers asked, so this whole process is still, meaning outdated. Why hasn't this been updated now that things have changed drastically?
Right.
I've tried numerous upon numerous times to do away with the Electoral College.
Yeah.
We passed through the House of Representatives. I can't remember the year. It was must have been the 1900s, early 1900s, mid 1900s. But it was held up by a filibuster and by the Republicans in the Senate, because you need both the House and the Senate to approve something before it to be changed, and then the president to sign off on it. And the Republicans basically said, no, this is not happening. Mm-hmm. The Republicans are not going to do away with the Electoral College anytime soon, because honestly, it benefits.
It benefits them. Yeah, it benefits them. Yeah. And
so,
go ahead, Brandon.
Go ahead.
There are a lot of questions coming up, Sequez, in the comments about red states versus blue states. And
we're going to get there.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we tag that, because that's something I'm passionate about.
I got you.
Okay.
Wait, did y'all finish it when y'all posted? Y'all wanted to say?
I'm good.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not going to change anytime soon, because
it's not. Until you get a Democratic president, a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic House of Representatives. But then again, you've got now the Supreme Court, which will be leaning conservatively. So that's a whole nother topic that we're going to get to.
So let's hit on Tristy question, because she's been coming with the bangers. Okay. She's been coming with the bangers. So Tristy said, what should you do when both parties hold values that you believe in?
There are these things that you can find on the internet where it's literally like Joe Biden, Donald Trump, just as an example, right? Abortion. Donald Trump doesn't believe in it. Joe Biden does believe in it, right? You can look at all of these different checklists that exist, and you can say, well, I like Joe Biden, but Donald Trump seems to kind of lean more my way, just as an example. And if that's the case, I hate to use this, because I feel like if we use it again, I will never have to hear it again.
No, we're not using the word.
It is. It's the lesser of the two evils. Unfortunately, that's where we're living, because you have to realize that there could be a candidate who, for example, let's step it back a little bit. A lot of Black people, just from a statistical standpoint, are very conservative. They are anti-abortion because of Christian values. They are anti-gay marriage for whatever their personal beliefs are, particularly Christian, because the one man should marry a woman. They are also very fiscally conservative, especially once they make it, hint, hint, 50 Cent. And so I think, you have to realize that Black people and some white people, that you're going to have values that align to both parties. No party is perfect, right? But what you do have to realize is for your particular choice, whose morals and values more align with yours holistically, right? Not just based upon one party issues, because there are some people who are literally voting for one candidate because he does not believe in abortion, period. They don't care about voting rights. They don't care about LGBT rights. They are literally voting for one candidate because he is anti-abortion. So I would say look at it from a holistic standpoint before you decide, I'm going with both of them.
So to echo what Jasmine is saying, I want to look at it as a political party more so. Let me look at these candidates and see where they stand on these issues, because there was a point in American history where there was cross-party voting, where you saw those individuals, or you saw citizens may vote for a Republican for their congressperson and vote for a Democrat for president. There was times when that happened. It's just now we're so polarized. I won't get into that anymore. I won't say it again. That we're pretty much voting against the other candidate and not really voting for the candidate that we support. Mm-hmm. So it's important to just look at those candidates and see where they align with your values, however they lay, and make a decision that way. And if you want to write in Kanye, you could. I mean, that's your personal
choice. However, I will say this. The independent party has not been taken seriously in the United States. We are historically a two-party system, and the independent party oftentimes pulls votes from the Democratic Party more than anybody else. And so if you look at the Green Party in the 2016 election, a lot of those votes, I don't even remember who the candidate was. It was the Libertarian candidate. A lot of those votes could have gone to Hillary Clinton, but that was because that was the I'm pro Bernie Sanders, anti Hillary Clinton crowd. So that
stop right there, right there. Since you talk about this, so especially where we are right now, like right now, what's going on right now? Anything out? Do you think? And this is opinion based. This is not fact based. Do you think, Jasmine and Brandon, that any vote outside of Donald or Joe would be detrimental to this race?
Yes. Yes.
Brandon, what's this face? What's the face, Brandon?
No, I'm honestly going to say, and hear me out, because like I said, I'm gonna be nonpartisan, unbiased. No, if that's their constitutional right,
yeah,
to vote how they see fit. I am not going to tell someone how they should or should not vote.
Correct.
If you know that Joe Biden nor Donald Trump represent your interests on any level, and you see a candidate that does, by all means, that is your right to vote for their candidate. So I'm not going to say it's detrimental to the American political system, because you still can hold these elected officials accountable if you don't vote for them. So
my sister is right. Sorry, go Sheila, my line sister.
It's a way to go to my. I mean,
thank you, Sheila.
I mean, I can't go against somebody else's opinion, but honestly, no, that's their right to vote for who they.
It is their right. Okay, we understand rights, right? Because your vote is your voice, right? That's the name of this podcast. Your vote is your voice. But right now, understanding what is at stake in this election, would it be wise? Would you your opinion, not being politically correct, because we know we do not do political correctness here on this podcast. We've never done political correctness on this podcast. Doing away with political correctness and understand what is at stake from all the way from the Supreme Court to RBG's open spot to your local elections. Do you think that writing in a name, voting Kanye, go like independent, whatever, do you think that is wise in this state?
You're asking me?
Yes, this is your specific opinion.
Why do I have that specific question?
Because baby, I asked.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I'm talking, okay, I'm not gonna do the diverse.
No, stop it.
Honestly, like I'm standing on that. That's their right to vote how they choose.
Okay, he's being politically correct.
We're gonna move on. We're gonna move forward. We're gonna post Amira's Mimosa Nini's comment. She says, y'all might have answered this, but does my blue vote have more of an impact on historically blue state or red state?
So this is a passion area for me because I love talking about purple or magenta states, right? So purple states are states where blue and red, as we know, come together and they make that color, all right? Magenta states, which is right now Texas, they lean more red, but there is blue there, right? So states like Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, those four, just from what I can think off the top of my head, think about all of the millennials who are moving and flocking to those states to start their lives. So you've got the Atlanta crowd, like myself and my husband. You've got people moving to Dallas and Houston, like Brandon. You've got people moving to Arizona, Phoenix. We have a good friend of ours who moved from LA to Phoenix because it was significantly cheaper to start his life. So you've got these traditionally red states that are now leaning blue because of the masses of people who are moving there with different perspectives. Your vote is going to be critical in any historical state. So if you're in Georgia, I'm gonna just use myself as an example. We have an opportunity to turn Georgia from red to blue in this election, simply because of the people who have moved here. And I think that it's critical that you think outside of Atlanta when you think about Georgia, because of course Atlanta's the bubble, but you've got to talk about Savannah, Augusta, you've got Columbus, Macon, you've got all of these other areas of the state that people often forget about that will help change the state from red to blue or even blue to red. However, that happens very infrequently for a state to go from blue to red. Like California and New York, the presidential candidates don't even have to campaign in those states. It's just understood that you're going to be blue, and it is what it is. Florida is a little bit different because Florida has a large immigration population. So, but you've also got a mix with the people who retire and move to Florida from other states in the country who have more conservative values. So that's why you've got the older crowd and the immigration crowd with a few young folks who moved there to Miami, Orlando, other places.
And also,
your vote is critical in either a blue or a red state, particularly when you're trying to flip them.
And also with Florida, if I'm not mistaken, they just, I think it's just this election cycle where the bill or the law passed where those with felony convictions or crimes are now receiving their right to vote again. So they have a chance to vote in this election. So that's the thing that could help turn Florida from red to blue as well.
Is that what they call swinger states?
Yes, swing states.
Swing states, yeah.
So there are states that are pretty much on that pendulum. When you hear the word swing, that means that they're on a pendulum. So they can go whichever way to go.
I'm not saying if you get down like that. I would just,
no. So it means when you say a swing state, it means a state that can literally go whichever way the wind blows.
Right, like
so, for example, when you get to like middle America, so you start talking about Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania. That's very high level blue collar workers who work there, right? So those are people who typically didn't go to college, but they are good hard workers who have trades. They've worked in factories. They're literally the people who built America. However, their voices are very critical when it comes to elections because there are so many people who still live in those states where the metropolitan cities have to compete with that. So you've got, Pennsylvania, which is why you see the candidates running to Pennsylvania so much. You've got people running to Indiana, Michigan, all of these places, particularly Florida. If any candidate does not win Florida this year, mark my word, they will not win the presidency.
Well, I be John Brown. All right.
Might need to quote that.
So, anything else you want to talk about this section before we get to the TT?
Oh God, the T.
The T, sir, the T.
No, I'm really passionate about turning purple states blue, magenta states blue. So if you got cousins,
honestly, if you really want to know honest, I don't recall ever hearing about magenta.
Yeah, so
purple.
Magenta is a new term, and basically after Joe Biden said what he said at the debate about kind of getting rid of the oil industry, that's when people all over the news in different places were like, Texas is leaning magenta versus purple. So it's more so of a new term, as in there's way more red, right, versus way more blue, where blue and red is a solid purple. So
and there was a conversation about Joe Biden actually having a chance to win Texas due to the large population of Mexican Americans, how they tend to vote.
Yeah,
you see a large influx of Mexican Americans coming into the country, and they ideas and their policy, the way they see American politics, they kind of lean towards the Democratic side. So he has a chance to win Texas, and in a time where Texas has really never been blue. I can't remember the last time Texas.
I don't ever recall ever knowing Texas being blue. To be honest.
Yeah. So, and then even North Carolina, people who are flocking to Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So just if you're in any of those critical states, and if you're in a critical state, because that means that they're actually campaigning in those states in the past month.
Yeah.
If they're not in your state, that means that they know it's not even worth it.
Like the South, like Mississippi or Arkansas.
They're not campaigning in Birmingham, Alabama. Joe Biden is not going to Birmingham. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Not going to California.
He's not going to California.
All right. So Let's see. What did I see anything in the chat? Nothing
What's
really.
the cost of that, though? I'm curious what she meant.
He was asking, what's the cost of voting for a candidate that's not Joe Biden or Donald Trump or?
Okay.
Well, since we're educated on electoral college, right? Depending on the state that you're in, Sequest personally. First of all, is there a website where or information out there where where the electoral college individuals have to vote for the majority? Where do you find that information at? See if you're in that type of state.
Brandon, you gonna pull it up? You gonna find it, or because
I can try.
Homework assignment on the side. Can y'all look that up and we can put that in there?
I had it earlier. I sent it to you.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, just put it in the chat. Okay, so let's move forward to the part. Let's look at the breakdown when it comes to the election, right? And I am reading this. This is a quote. Okay. Exit polling from 2016 election shows that while 13% of Black men voted for Donald Trump,
double digits.
Jasmine, hold it. Just 4% of Black women did. Exit polls for 2008 and 2012 show that more Black women voted for Barack Obama than Black men. In fact, the last time more than 10% of Black women voted for a Republican presidential candidate was 1996, when 14% of Black women voted for Bob Dole, compared to 22% Black men did the same. So the question now, and I want Brandon to start this answer this question. Will Black men be the new white women in 2016 that voted for Trump? According to the exit poll, 52% of white women voted for Trump in 2016. So the question is it looking like Black men will be the new 2016 white women?
So let's clarify what we mean by being the 2016 white women. You mean turning out?
When we talk about voting and turnout.
Donald Trump. Okay.
Yes. I want to clarify. Thank you for that.
Before I get into Black men, I want to talk about Black women for a second, right? So in political science, we learned this term called linked fate. And what linked?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Linked, L-I-N-K-E-D, fate, F-A-T.
Yeah.
What that means is the decisions that I make impact those that look like me or in the same demographic. So I have to make a decision that benefits all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Black women, they really don't have any other option but to vote for the Democratic Party. The reason being is because when you look at the Republican Party and the policies that they put forth, it's against abortion, it's against women's rights. Everything that Black women hold dear, they are against it. Whereas the Democratic Party is the only party that's pushing for health care for Black women or abortion rights, marriage, gay marriage, these things, marry who you want to, so on and so forth. So Black women more are going to turn to the Democrats to vote. Always. That's not going to change. Now, with Black men, when I was doing my research to try to answer this question, I had to dig deep, and I saw a few things that kind of changed the way I thought about it. Why Black men are turning out for Donald Trump. I see the post on Facebook all the time, and I see Black men talk about it all the time, voting for someone that isn't Joe Biden. And what I'm seeing is they relate to the patriarchal system that has bolstered Donald Trump. It's more of a pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of approach that Donald Trump has put so much into this campaign. He says he's doing all these things for African Americans, and they think it's true for lack of a better research or lack of a better term, and they want to emulate that in a sense. So, and then you see him make comments about, I'm going to lower your taxes, and you see all these Black celebrities come in and pray with them and say they're voting for him. Black men don't have that linked fate. We feel that we can make a decision and vote for who we want to and not affect other people. Therefore, there's a little bit more freedom to vote for a candidate that we feel aligns with our ideology. I'm not saying me. I'm just saying me as a Black man, not me that I'm Trump.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have those comments by Joe Biden that say he said things like, "If you don't vote for me, then you're not black." Black men are like, "What the hell? Like, I don't have to vote for you. I mean, I vote for Donald Trump." You see that pushback from black men. I saw another person that said, "Let me see." Oh, that's pretty much it. So, do I see black men coming out and voting for Donald Trump? Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie. I do see a certain percentage of black men coming out and voting for Donald Trump. He has campaigned for them ferociously. He's like he really is putting like campaign places or he just reaching out to him and saying, "Hey, vote for me." He know he doesn't have a chance with black women. It's not gonna happen. But with black men, there is a chance. And yes, you're right, Rika, and they are buying. Like I'm seeing it every day. And I don't make comments about this on Facebook. I do not post on social media about my views as it relates to politics.
Yeah.
I am seeing that black men are a little bit more lenient towards voting for Donald Trump. And it could be just voting against Joe Biden and voting against the Democratic Party, too. That's another thing I'll talk about another time, the polarization. But yeah.
What about you, Jazz?
So a couple things. Let me just say, black women are amazing. I happen to be
Period. Just let that marinate in your spirit.
Do whatever they want to do because we show out 90+% of the time and vote the right way for us. However, I think there's a little piece in regards to the black man that we have to talk about. And I have to say this because I've learned this over the years of being married to my first generation American husband, is that you have to remember that not every black man is African American, right? So you've got, when you say black men, you're talking about Haitians, you're talking about West Africans. And if you know any of these people and you have friends from these demographics, you know they come from a very totally different background from an African American male. Whereas somebody who grew up in the Bible Belt of the South versus somebody who's first generation American, they're going to have two totally different perspectives on the pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And so I think that that's a piece that we have to target and remember, that not every black person is African American and not every African American considers themselves black. So that piece we've got to talk about. I think that black men, just Jasmine's opinion, nobody else's, some black men are more in love with the privilege that they seek versus equality. And when I say privilege, they want to be on a level playing field with their white male counterparts, right? So they think that if they vote along the lines of Donald Trump, that whole pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is going to make you more important, or it's going to actually give you a little bit more value, right? Versus continuing to stay with the mob in the back, right? The people who are behind. So, or the people who are all over there versus that way. I think that also what I've noticed is watching some people on the news and just paying attention to different black men being interviewed. There are some black men who just want to be different. And I don't know what to do. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's because, you know, they feel like the Democratic Party has done nothing for them. You know, Joe Biden's been in office 47 years, and he's done that, blah, blah, blah. I think, you know, in the comments, people are talking about it. You're talking about privilege. You're talking about masculine toxicity. You're talking about all of these other things, right, that I think that nobody ever wants to really go deep into. And so the people who are going to decide this election are going to be black men and suburban white women.
And also, let me say this: it's not going to be a large percentage of African American or black men that's going to turn out to vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
Last election was only 13%, and we have to keep in mind a large sector of African Americans are concentrated in only a few states. We're not in that many states. So I don't know if myself personally, my opinion, that I don't know if the black male vote could sway the election one way or another because of the way we're concentrated. It may could, like in Georgia or maybe Texas, but mostly that when I was looking at the exit poll numbers, I couldn't find exit polls in those southern states. I did see some in the Midwest and those swing states, and it's black men really didn't come out and vote for Donald Trump at those high level and those high numbers in those swing states.
A lot of black people stayed home in 2016.
Right. So that moves us forward to the voting, right? Because only 54% of eligible black men voted in 2016. 54% versus the 64% of black women voted in 2016, which was significantly lower than the turnout for the Obama administration. So hold on. So there's a lot of people saying something right now. I wanted to look at somebody made a statement. So Fatima made a statement right here. She says this man is literally going to win because people are trying to be too woke for their own good, but this is not the time. What do you say to that statement?
I believe it. I agree with you, Fatima. I think when you say too woke, I think the word and I gotta say it. I gotta say it for real. A hotep. It is what it is. I know we're live, and I know Sequest probably would have bleeped me out had we been editing.
Yeah, no.
But and I think of Umar Johnson. Not saying he would vote for him, right? But I just, when I think of the black men who are gonna vote for Donald Trump, that is along the lines of who I consider, because they want to be different from the status quo. They want to be woke. They want to be, they just want to be different. And I just have never understood. And so Sheila mentioned in the comments, she said that, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps isn't a new ideology. So my question is, why now are black men listening and believing in that? That's been the typical Republican model for years. And again, I think it's because feminism is on the forefront now, the conversation about feminism. So a lot of black men didn't want to vote in the 2016 election because Hillary Clinton was a woman. And I know this because I personally know this from a few people that I know who didn't vote because they did not want to vote for either candidate. And one was because Hillary Clinton was a woman.
And I know someone said too woke for their own good, but I'm gonna rephrase that and say they are being bombarded and socialized by media that doesn't necessarily portray the whole truth and not doing the research they need to make an informed decision. You see Donald Trump say things like, I'm the best president for African Americans, and you see different media outlets saying how bad or how terrible Joe Biden is going to be for black people. And some people don't do their research and they buy into it and they start to spew that same rhetoric, and it's not true. But when you hear the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to start to believe it. And I think that's another thing that's happening with black men. They're getting this information from these sources that's not portraying the whole truth as it relates to how detrimental policies that Donald Trump has passed or looks to pass for African Americans. They just see the few things that he says he's done and what he wants to do, and they're running with it. And also they're fighting against this idea that black people vote in a group and we're going to always vote Democrat, and they're voting just to be different and because of what Donald Trump is saying.
Right.
So it's a few layers to peel back.
And it goes exactly what you said, that you're not voting for a person, you're voting against the person.
Exactly.
And sometimes I really, really wonder this. If people didn't have religious beliefs, right? If religion was taken out of everything, right? Just where would certain people stand on issues?
I think it would be totally different.
Right? Like it's
the cornerstone, especially with black people, it's the cornerstone.
Right. If you didn't have and I really hate it because I grew up in a church. I have family members who are pastors, obviously, but I really want to know, if we didn't have the Bible or if we didn't have the Quran, right? What would some of our views be?
And that's kind of hard to even think about because the church and religion is one of those three major socializing institutions that instill our values in us. So if we didn't have those values from religion, then what values would we have? Where would they come from other than church, other than school and family? And how can they be molded?
want to say something because the statement has been brought up a couple of
Mhm.
times about Donald Trump and relating to the pulling up the bootstraps, and I'm trying to figure out what bootstraps did Donald Trump have.
Absolutely nothing.
I want to know where the $1 million that his dad gave him a mere $1 million to start. I want to know what bootstrap he was strapping.
So again, trying to be as frank as possible because Sequoia's podcast is just real as it gets.
Right? Just ask the questions.
Donald Trump found a group of people who have felt forgotten about for years, right? So Donald Trump has found a group of middle America, right, who have said, you know, the blue collar workers in some of those factories and plants up in middle America and the people who pretty much have been on the outs of the political process. Mm-hmm. He found that group and he harnessed it, right? To them, that's their Barack Obama, right? So Donald Trump, that whole pulling up by the bootstraps, they don't even care that he's a millionaire or whatever. They just want to be heard, right? And they feel like Donald Trump and his administration hears them.
And it's funny because I see these interviews on the media all the time where these correspondents are saying, well, he didn't pay any money in taxes. He's avoiding this and what he said. And they're like, I don't care. Is he providing jobs to the American people? And he's not even doing that. I remember
right.
this one factory closed down like just a few months after it laid off 100,000 people, something like that, right after he left the factory giving a speech. Like he is detrimental to certain sectors of the American system and American citizenry. It's the wine. Yeah. But people are not
just keep going.
Doing their research to find out just how impactful or not impactful his policies or lack thereof are. And they're going off of what he's saying rather than what he's doing or what his administration is doing. Because it's not just Donald Trump we have to worry about. Remember this. He has a cabinet. So the Secretary of Education and diverting money from public institutions to private schools and charter schools. You also have the Secretary of the Treasurer and all these other individuals who are raising tax rates or lowering tax rates and giving money to corporations rather than public entrepreneurs like yourself or anybody else. So it's just not Donald Trump. It's the people who points as well. So that's also something good to take into consideration when you're making your vote. Do you want your student loans forgiven? Guess who's not doing it?
Yeah. Listen, I'm gonna just be honest. Let Trump say.
Stop.
Okay. Moving forward. So I want us to kind of we kind of already on there, right? And we talked about all of things of the Trump and Biden and all this kind of stuff. Now, this was not one of the questions that I asked you guys, but I'm gonna ask you guys. So when we talk about the election, do you think that because what Swift said kind of just sticks in my mind, it's not of I'm voting for a person, I'm just I'm voting against the other person. So do you think a lot of it when it came to Hilary, when it came to Trump and all of this, do you think that played a huge part? It's like I'd rather have a racist bigot in office than a white woman. Yes. Or just a woman in general. Because if we think about it, I mean, Hilary may not be the perfect person, but it's not like Homegirl didn't have experience. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, but do you think that it was more important for people to have a man in office who has no track record when it comes to politics, doesn't pay his debt, nothing of that sort, but it was more important for him to be in office than a woman?
You can go first, Jay.
So I look at it this way. The least educated man will always be better in some minds than the most educated woman. Right? And that's simply because of his sex. And I really hate that is the way that our patriarchal society exists. But I do believe, Sequoias, with your initial question, that there are some people who are there are some women, not only men, there are some women who don't want women to run this country.
That part, which really hurt my feelings.
I know someone, you know, who was jokingly talking about it, but in their tone, you could tell they were really serious. That as a woman, she was not okay with a woman running the country right now. Like, oh, the world is in a mess. You know, we don't need emotional leadership right now, and you know, maybe we should have Andrew Cuomo versus Kamala. You know, and that's cool, right? But it just kind of shows that there are people who are still not ready for a woman.
And so to go into your question, there was a time when, like I said earlier, that you saw those cross-party votes, you know, voting for a Democratic congressman and voting for a Republican president. I think there was an article that was actually put out by the American Political Science Association that said this type of voting and this type of political system is going to be detrimental to American politics, and they actually encourage polarization within this country. And then you start to see the cross. Am I going AP again? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to say polarization. You use it 4 times in the other one.
I'm about to come to it. But you, like I said, you see that polarization. You see those issues that are not really political issues influence how we vote in political elections. And one example that I give in class is the kneeling at the national anthem of football games. Right? That's not really a political issue. That's not a political stance. But you see political candidates use that to appeal to their base and say, these individuals are kneeling against the flag. They stand against everything American. If you vote for these people, you're going to see your country burn down in flames.
Mm-hmm.
You also see these candidates say things that if you vote for this person, your taxes are going to go up. You're going to lose everything, gay marriage. But they don't say what they're going to do. They are telling you to vote against a candidate and not really support them.
Yeah,
very polarized as a nation, and it's becoming to the point to where you can actually go into a voting booth and just say I'm a Democrat or Republican and not vote for a particular candidate. Push a button and just walk out, and that's your vote. Because we're not even looking at candidates who we support. We just know who we're not supporting. We know who we're not voting for.
That's scary. If you think
it goes back to TC's question. TC, I understand your pain, because there are times where I look at certain candidates and I'm like, man, like I like this person, but I don't like that person, right? And then
I agree with this thing they say.
However, personal point here, just my opinion yet again, I decided to go all blue this election purposely because I know what's at stake. And I know that the Democratic Party aligns more so with my values. So whereas there are some people, you know, who could have, well, let me take it another step back and kind of bring it into a lesson mode. So when you're voting in the primary elections, right, you're voting for your candidate based upon your party that you have declared with the registrar of voters. So if you are a Democrat, you have to vote in the Democratic primary. You cannot vote in the Republican primary.
Some states you can.
Some, correction, thank you. However, once you get to the general election, which is this November election, you can vote for whoever you choose to on the ballot. So it is very critical that you really look at what party you align with, because again, if you choose independent as your party, you cannot vote in the primary election because you're an independent voter.
Mm-hmm.
So again, as much as you say, oh, I might be an independent, as I know someone who kind of leans toward the independent party, I have to remind them that no, you can't do that right now, because if we need your vote for something, you can't go vote in the primary. So unfortunately, the two-party system is just where we are. It just is what it is.
And you like she said, you really have to gauge and vet these candidates who are running for office in the primaries, because if I'm not mistaken, there was like 7 or 8 individuals, white individuals in Mississippi, who ran as Democrats in a certain portion of the state and actually switched parties while they were in office to Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to really vet these candidates. You can't just vote against a candidate because they are of a political office. You really need to. Not gonna say need. I would advise you
Mm-hmm.
to vet these candidates and see who really aligns with what your values are.
Yep.
Because it's important.
Okay, so let's move forward. So we talked a little bit about Biden. We talked a little bit about Trump, and let's move to what impacts us as a people, as a group, right? So the question I have for you is, what is the importance of the quote unquote Black vote? And should Black people leverage our vote to get a real Black agenda?
That's a
And
little.
does a Black agenda actually exist? And we're not talking about Ice Cube's contracts, which I did read, and some parts of it was pretty dope. Some things I think is extremely far fetched, but I think he wanted to go as far as he possibly could so that he can fall in the middle. But is there a Black agenda? What president have ever really truly had a Black agenda? And should we, as Black people, Black folk, leverage our vote?
Okay. So this is a very loaded question.
I know.
I appreciate this question because it's a real thing. The Black agenda for the longest seemed to have gone unheard, right? There were people who assumed that because Barack Obama was going to be the first Black president of the United States, that he would immediately be the Black president in chief. Well, that didn't necessarily come to fruition. Were there issues that he aligned with us? Yes. Was he the Black president in chief? No, because he is the president of the United States of America, right? So he couldn't only focus on the Black agenda. He had to worry about the Hispanic agenda. He had to worry about what environmentalists wanted. And then, there's also the LGBT agenda, right? So I think every demographic, when it comes to being a voter, has an agenda in mind. Who speaks for Black people? I've always wondered that. I'm gonna be very honest with you because I don't know if it's Jesse Jackson. Some people say Al Sharpton. For me personally, I would like Tamika Mallory to speak for me, right? Because
Angela Rye.
And their counterparts, right? So if I had somebody who was at the table vetting a conversation for me, and Andrew Gillum, I have to give him some kind of credit. I know that he had a fall from grace technically, and he's coming back up the political stream. But Andrew Gillum is a brilliant man, and I hope that he can kind of bounce back from this. Andrew Gillum could speak for me. Really, he really could. However, I don't think that the Black agenda, it's so large, right? Again, like I said earlier, you've got African Americans, you've got Caribbean Americans, you've got, Africans who are in America, right? They were born in Nigeria, born in Ghana, whatever, and they now live in America. The Black agenda is huge. So I don't know if there's been one president to focus on the Black agenda. I don't know who honestly would speak for Black people if it came to that. But I do know there are organizations on the front lines for us every day. Shout out to my line sister, Amber, at the NAACP, who is literally fighting for us every day with our voices, making sure we're heard. So I think there are organizations that may have some type of urban community agenda, but that's not the Black agenda. So I think that this is a loaded question. And I think that we've got to figure out as a people what the Black agenda looks like for us and who speaks for us.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here thinking out loud. I gave this question a lot of thought. What is the Black agenda? And what do you mean by leverage our vote? Because P. Diddy got a lot of flack for saying, I'm not voting for a candidate in this election unless they do so-and-so. Is he not voting? Mm-hmm. So I really don't know what that would look like.
Now, he did come back out. He had an interview with Charlamagne the God, and he said that he is voting. He will
I'm saying what he did say, he was going to leverage his vote and not voting until
right.
A lot of pushback because there's a lot riding on this election. Also, like Jazz said, what does the Black agenda look like? Because there's so many different sectors of Black people.
Mm-hmm.
You have those working class Black people who may want lower taxes and money going to their area. Then you have those upper, echelon African Americans who say, you better not give them no money. They didn't work for it. So what does the Black agenda look like? Also, I don't know if I want any one person speaking for me. I can speak for myself, honestly. And I really look towards holding those elected officials accountable on a state and local level and saying, hey, this is what I want. This is what my people want. We need to make this happen. Because I really can't say a celebrity or an elected official saying this is what the Black people want. And then you see those funds going to companies or entrepreneurs whose businesses are in majority white areas where the tax dollars go to the white schools. And so it's so much to unpack when you talk about the Black agenda and who it benefits and who should represent us. So my overall answer is going to be, I don't think no one person or organization should represent African Americans. I think that we should recognize what our voice and our impact is in our communities and start making that change ourselves. And also start having younger, more progressive African Americans run for office, because it's ridiculous we have these same individuals in office for 30 and 40 years who are doing absolutely nothing. So that's another thing. We can shape our own agenda if we start getting people in office who think like us, who look like us, who will hear us and be accountable to what we say they need to do. So that's a lot for you.
That's a lot to unpack. Listen, I wanted to play this video, but we was testing it out and it wasn't listening. But if you guys are on Instagram and you have access to the Shade Room, what's her name? It just slipped my mind. Stacey Abrams has a video that kind of just leads us into this, and I think that everybody should go listen to Stacey Abrams' video. What you say, so?
I make it play. Let me try.
It's at the 12-second mark if you try.
Hold on one second.
But while he's trying to figure that out, so what we've learned, Rika said, "Baby, please don't raise my taxes. Healthcare already don't make enough." Amira, we was not talking about your husband Ice Cube. We was just saying I want to know who he was collaborating with when he made the contract of Black America. I was just interested in like where all that came from. So that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So I want to talk about Biden and Kamala, right? We already know about Trump. That's cute. But moving forward to Biden and Kamala. So the main things that we hear about when it comes to Biden is the bill, right? The crime bill. The crime bill, and how he is evil and he really don't like Black people, and we rather Trump. I rather Trump because I know Trump don't like Black people, and I know what he stands for in the beginning, versus Biden, who is underhanded. That's kind of seemed like that's been the sentiments when it comes to some people, how they feel about Biden. So what do you guys feel about Joe Biden and the crime bill?
So Joe Biden has come out and publicly said he made a mistake. He also has come out and said that the crime bill, the people who really messed up with the crime bill was when it went to the state and how they handled it. I think that the crime bill is kind of too deep to get into, and I really haven't done as much research on it as I probably could have done. However, what I do realize is that yet again, here we go with just figuring out one issue that we decide to vote against a candidate on, where we've got an entire host of issues that we could point out that this other person who he's running against, right, we could actually put pens and paper on the fact of what he has not done. And I think that people are just trying to find any kind of reason yet again to not vote for Joe Biden. They call Kamala the police because she worked for the DA's office. Sequeza kind of goes into your next question. They say Kamala's not Black enough. It's so many different layers to this thing of why the crime bill should be even talked about. There's no perfect candidate. There is no perfect candidate.
The perfect candidate, does it exist? That's the next question. Does the perfect candidate exist?
And back to the crime bill, people are ready to take Joe Biden and push him off a plank, but more than likely, your elected representative voted for it. A lot of I think it was like what 2/3 of the Congressional Black Caucus supported the crime bill, and you also have to think about the time. I don't think that it was that big. It's a big deal now, right? Looking back on it, but during that time, there wasn't as much pushback for the crime bill as there is currently, and the only reason it is now is because people, like Jazz said, is finding a reason to vote against Joe Biden or to support Donald Trump. It goes back to polarization. I don't know how many times I got to say it tonight, but they are using these tactics to sway the black electorate, right? And people are falling for it. They're saying nothing but good things about Donald Trump in some media outlets and saying everything horrible about Joe Biden. And you have a certain population of black people that's buying into it and making a decision based off of what they see.
Yep.
The crime bill was deplorable, but it's not something that people should make their vote based off of, right? 1994 crime bill. Okay, let's talk about Strom Thurmond in the 70s and 80s, and really? But no, absolutely not. It shouldn't sway anyone's vote, in my opinion. It's probably my first time giving my opinion tonight, but it shouldn't sway anyone's vote, in my opinion. It's not this strong, and it doesn't have the impact that current issues have now.
And let's look at Kamala or her tough on crime in California. What do you think about that?
I think I got the clip to play. I can try.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
You read the comment? Well, I'm aware. I'm aware. You're aware? Okay. I was wondering if you were a roommate, but some of the roommates in the comments have said, like, okay, our vote really doesn't count. Like, it truly doesn't matter. So what do you have to say to those people who feel that way about this election? You know?
Number one, you're not wrong. You're not wrong to be suspicious. You're not wrong to despair. You're not wrong to be cynical. Because for so long, we have tried to see change, and unfortunately, the progress we need is slow, it's plodding, and every time we take a step forward, there seem to be people that are ready to push us back. But here's the reality. It is better than it was. Things are better than they have been, and the difference is there are more of us now than there have ever been. When people talk about demographic changes, what they mean is there are a lot of people who had a long time to be unhappy who now have the ability to put their votes together with others and make a difference. And we see it in the composition of our Congress. We see it in people who are winning mayor's races and city council races. We see it in who's showing up at the polls. But we have to remember, voting isn't magic. It's not just going to change things. We don't elect saviors. We elect people who work for us. And that means when we vote for them, we are part of a process of hiring someone to do right. And if they don't do right, it's our job to fire them. But in the middle, we got to hold them accountable. I don't know of anybody who would let someone be in charge of their money and not check on them for 2 years or 4 years. Yet that's what we do with politicians. If we want things to be better, we've got to show up and vote. We've got to show up in the halls of power and protest. And we got to show up in the streets and protest if it's big enough that we don't think we're being heard. But voting isn't magic, but it is the best solution we have because we know that silence damns us all. And so we've got to speak up.
So what did you guys get from
It's all night.
Yeah.
Your elected officials accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Hold them accountable. You're not gonna, like you said, you're not gonna have someone in charge of your finances and check on them every 2-3 years. You're not gonna try to go through a home buying process and check with the realtor at the beginning and at the end. No, you're not gonna buy a house or get a house built and go and look at it the first day and then go and see when it's finally built. No, you want to check the walls, make sure the flooring is done, and make sure the foundation is right. The same thing with elected officials. You don't want them to get elected and then check on them when it's time to elect them again. Right. Absolutely not. Because number one, these large corporations and these large organizations have lobbyists in these halls every day swaying the way they vote on certain policy issues. It's not so much at the local level. You're not going to really see lobbyists at the local level. You may see some money get exchanged, but you got to hold these elected officials accountable. You got to talk to them day in and day out and make sure that your voice is heard, not only at the polls, but in the hallways as well, at these city council meetings, at these state hearings. You got to let your voice be heard.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jess?
I agree. It kind of, again, it goes to our next question, Sequez. Every time I hear Stacey Abrams talk, I just get so fired up.
Wait, hold up. We're gonna end with that one.
And
this is gonna be the culmination.
I mean,
so because I already know what's about to be stirred up in Jasmine Shondo, okay? And so we're Brandon laughing because we already talked about this. So when we talk about Stacey Abrams and who she is and how eloquent, as you guys heard, how eloquent she is and all this kind of stuff, we know. Well, we kind of. But Brandon, do you have the statistics for that before I go on? Okay, so we kind of have a pretty solid understanding that the way that you look, especially I'm gonna say, especially when it comes to being a Black female, the way that you look plays a part if you're going to get elected in office or not. So, Jasmine, because I know that you're going to go there, we're going to close with this. Does colorism exist or plays a part when it comes to getting elected?
Yes.
Before you go, Dr. Orr, if you're still in the comments, what is that? I cannot think of that term. Where people vote based on how the candidate looks. I cannot think of that term to save my life, and I can find it anymore.
Brandon been trying to figure out that term.
I've been trying to remember it. It was bothering me because people vote based on looks, but it's an exact term for it. Okay. So this is a personal pet peeve of mine. I get really bothered by this. Stacey Abrams is one of, if not the most brilliant person I've ever heard speak from a political standpoint, a human rights standpoint. And unfortunately, because of the way she looks, she won't, I'm not saying it won't happen today or tomorrow, but I don't know, and Sequoia said she doesn't know in her lifetime, which is really unfortunate. Kamala and Stacey have two totally different looks. And it's really unfortunate that we still have to play this role as a woman, whether we change our hair, whether we go lose weight, whether some of us get our skin bleached. I really think that, and even Stacey Abrams has said it, when you close your eyes, you don't see me as I know that you don't see me as your elected official. I know I don't look like what your ideal of an elected official would look like. And I just hope that, I know that there are people who are watching this live and there are people who have power in their voice. Please be kind and a little bit more considerate when it comes to candidates who are really trying to speak for us, whether they wear their natural hair, whether they're dark skinned, whether they may be a little bit more plump in certain areas. I really think that we are so hard on women candidates that we would never do this to male candidates. Colorism does play a part in being elected. And unfortunately, this is where we are in 2020. It's not 1950, it's not 1892. It is 2020 and we are still here. And I really hope that at some point the colorism conversation can shift to whether somebody's qualified versus how they look.
And I'm just going to agree with Jazz on everything that she said. We are still here. We're still fighting these battles. You see it every day with on social media and how certain hairstyles are deemed professional while others are not when it comes to Black women. How certain skin tones have to wear makeup. You get a lot of flack for a lot of things that you have absolutely no control over, and not because of how you represent the people that have elected you into office. And it's sad. And actually, I think Stacey Abrams actually won Georgia, but of course, dirty politics, she ended up losing. But somebody said, looks doesn't matter when it comes to men. I do think that it matters when it comes to men as well. I don't. I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter when it comes to men. I'm gonna have to look up JFK and why he was elected president. I think there are some.
What outside of that?
Mm-hmm.
What ugly politics? Oh, okay, never mind. I answered my question.
No, I'm sorry. It just we don't even whether it's corporate America, whether it's politics, whether it's education. I don't care where it is. Like looks play a part in whether or not you move up a certain ladder, whether you're successful or not. And I know I have some coworkers, who have told me that they have to literally go above and beyond with how they dress, how they wear their hair, just in order to move up the corporate ladder.
Yep.
And they're bigger women, and that's really, really unfortunate that we're still at this point. But I don't think men get the same critique, but that's just in general, right? Like women always trying to lose weight. It's just like the society is just so much harder on women.
Yeah, particularly black women.
Yeah, and I think that Stacey Abrams got caught in, and unfortunately, she should have won her election had there not been some voter suppression and cheating, which we really kind of didn't talk about a lot, Squeeze, the voter suppression piece. But yeah, it just I really hope that at some point we can transition away from how a person looks to whether or not they're qualified.
Okay. I think we hit a lot on. I want to look at Brandon and Jazz. Did you guys see anything in the comment that you want to comment on? As we come
not
to
comment, but we were supposed to talk about one topic that we didn't hit because and that was should we move away from the electoral college to a one person, one vote, popular vote system?
I thought we talked about that. I thought we talked about the electoral college not going anywhere.
Electoral college, but we didn't answer that question.
Okay, go ahead.
And I would say yes. I do think that we should move to a popular vote system because the African American vote, especially in the South, is pretty much nullified with the electoral college system. So I do think we should move to a one person, one vote system.
I agree.
And do you think that would happen in our lifetime? Since how it kind of benefits.
Well, with 2020 going on, I don't know how long our lifetime gonna be.
You was doing so good, friend. You was doing so good before you tried to doom us all. Facts. It's okay.
But honestly, no, probably not.
All right. So what about you? So let's come. So as you guys know, we have our champagne toast. What is a champagne toast, Brandon?
Will we toast our champagne?
We toast about what?
I forget.
Champagne toast that Brandon's been drinking. So we're coming to the end of this podcast. I want to say this is probably our quickest podcast because usually our podcast runs pretty long, 4 hours. But if Obama happened in our lifetime, anything is possible. Okay, Sam, fair. Very fair point. Very, very fair point. So everyone that's listening, if you have a question that you or a statement that you want them to answer, this is the perfect time because we're coming to the end. So what you say?
I said, please put it in the comments. I'm curious.
Yeah, put it in the comment. Also, Fatima and Rika, right? Was it Fatima and Rika? Jasmine, Rika won yours, right?
Rika won mine.
Rika won yours, and Fatima, I think, won Jazz. Send me a message on your Cash App so that I can make sure that we Cash App you for your pop quiz. Jason, what's the name of that wine? Who is Jason? Are you talking about Swift or Jazz?
You must be talking about me. I can't be Jason.
Jazz, what's your wine?
That'll fit. So it's from Trader Joe's.
What's the name of it, Jazz?
Coco Bond. I hope that's who it is. 2 degrees and I can't read. But roasted oak blend, red blend, and it's on espresso. It comes from Trader Joe's, and it's like $8 a bottle.
Bet. Joan posted a comment. She says, for a person who lacks influence, how do you hold your politicians accountable if you feel like they don't have a voice or they don't have a strong voice?
So there is a process by which you can get on the agenda at your local meetings and speak. Also, there's a process by which you can go to get on the agenda at your state meetings and speak. You don't have to have influence to go up and speak on the agenda and let them know how you feel about certain policy issues or how you feel about the way your city is going, your local office is going, your county is going. You just have to know the process and be willing to go and speak with them and let them know. You can also go and speak in committee meetings, and that's really where a lot of the decisions are made in the committee meetings, and let them know how you feel about certain policies. Also, if you just go to the state capitol and just sit in the lobby area and look around and know who you're looking for, you can speak to an elected representative. Just go up, shake, reach out your hand, say, hey, my name is so-and-so, so-and-so. How are you? And this is how I feel about this issue. Just go out and speak to them. They're elected to serve your interests. Also, send them an email. All their personal, well, not their personal, but their contact information is on the internet. It's on the websites. Reach out, send them emails, call them, do what you have to do to speak with your elected representative and let them know how you feel. If it's local, I mean, that's not too hard. Find out where they play basketball at or where they work out at. You go talk to them. But yeah, you don't have to have influence to speak with your elected representative.
Don't be a stalker though. Don't be a stalker. They might
be a stalker. No, don't be a stalker. No.
Don't be a stalker. Don't be a stalker. But get your point across. Okay. So is there anybody else in the comments wanting to say something before we do our champagne toast? So we're moving on to the champagne toast. You can also join the champagne toast. So the champagne toast is basically a time where we talk about what we learned. What's our takeaway moment that we will go and let it sit in our spirit, let it sizzle in our spirit a little bit, and then share that information with other people so that we can just be more knowledgeable about what we learned today. So we want you guys to participate in the champagne toast, and in the comment section, tell us what you learned. What impacted you the most? What did you know that you didn't know? No, sir, I'm not trying to go to jail for harassing them. No, let us know what you learned, what you didn't know, what information you're going to take on and share that information with others. That's what we want to do. We want to encourage you to use your voice, and your voice is your vote. When it comes to local elections, that's what we need to be mindful of when it comes to our community, when it comes to our children's future and all that, all right? So in the comment section, make sure that you put in what your champagne toast is. And we're going to start with Jazz. Jazz, what is your champagne toast tonight?
So cheers to learning Swift's real name. No, I'm just in all seriousness though, I think this has been very, for somebody who has studied political science and has, gotten an MPA, I feel like I've been out of the political world for a few years because my career right now may not necessarily be in politics, but it's always my first love. And I think, sometimes I learn from Brandon. And one of the things that I really appreciate is the fact that he can try to be very neutral when it comes to political perspectives. And I think that if we all did that just a little bit better, really listening to everybody, hearing them out, because there are a couple things that we all agree on, right? We all want our kids to have, a good school system. We all want, our kids to be fed. We all want the environment to be here for us and for our children, right? There are some things that we all align on. It's just how do we get there and the way and the tactics that we do it that are different. So I think that if we can all find just some of that middle ground and get past this 2020 election, I think that was my champagne toast. But I would also like to add a little piece here that we didn't go into, and that is the voter morale after the 2020 election. And that if you get nothing else from what we learned, is what we talked about today or something else that you might have learned, please hear me out and know that voter morale after the 2020 election is going to be critical, and it may even be at an all-time low. You got an entire generation of people who, if their candidate doesn't win this time around, particularly a Democratic candidate, they're going to get out of the political process altogether. So do what you can to try to make sure that you still have a positive voter morale going forward, because I'm really afraid of what happens if the popular candidate doesn't win this election. So really pay attention to what you're saying to your younger cousins, what you're saying to your family members, and those who you know are very leery of the democratic process post the 2020 election.
Cheers, Jazz.
Cheers.
Cheers. Ching, 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 ching. Brandon, what's your champagne toast?
So, first of all, thank you, Sequez, for having this outlet and allowing us to have this conversation in some ways kind of educate the viewers on why it's important to vote, especially in local elections and just voting, period, letting your voice be heard. So I want to say first, thank you for having that outlet and letting us come on for tonight. I also, throughout all my research, I knew a lot of what I was going to bring up. I just had to go back and find it. But one of the things that really stood out to me when I was researching was just how Black women have to hold their nose basically when they vote, because of how the representation, the candidates really don't represent most of their interests, but they know what's best for themselves and know what's best for the country. Then I started looking at elected officials who are Black women, and really on a local level as well. And I came to the conclusion, listening to Stacey Abrams when you posted the clip, listening to Kamala during the debate, that we really need more Black women voice in politics, and in general too, but especially in politics when it comes to writing policies that affect everyone, because research has shown Black women are going to make a decision and do things that not only affect them, but affect everyone. They have everyone in mind when they make their decision. So I do think that we should have more African-American women in office representing everyone. That's pretty much all I'll say.
Cheers. Ching, 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 ching. My champagne toast, honestly, for the first time, I actually understood electoral college. Like, for the first time, I actually really understood electoral college, like really understanding it. And my toast is not necessarily this specific, but when we were getting the information together for this podcast, when I tell you Jasmine and Brandon just stood in the gap and just superseded every expectation that that I had and educated me in so many different things. And Jasmine and Brandon get so excited, so I had to do my own research. So Jasmine would like send a message. She sent a link, and I got mad at her because I'm like, dang it, like now I gotta do more research. I was so drove. Like, what the? But it was I learned so freaking much, and I feel so much more knowledgeable. I did early vote for the first time. I always did on election day, but getting prepared for this, I felt it's so important to go to early voting. And I went on Saturday. I was the 5th one in line, the first one to cast my vote. Period. Okay. But that's my champagne toast, is to really appreciate you both for just standing the gap for me, because when I did not know, you guys superseded it. And also me just learning things that I did not know. I learned so much studying, but also just having the conversation with you guys. And I knew that you guys would just flow with it like you normally do. So that is my champagne toast. So cheers to us. Period.
Yes. And please, I gotta give you another shout out, man. Like, people are in the comments thanking you for this platform. It is so necessary. It is so needed. I think that this was genius. I think that, November the 3rd is around the corner. A lot of states still have early voting. If you can, go early vote. A lot of states have stopped early voting. I know in Georgia, they're early voting through October 30th, which is next Friday. So Research. But again, thank you, Sequez, and thank you, Brandon. I mean, this has been a lively discussion, and I've learned just a lot overall. So I appreciate it.
Same to y'all. I always enjoy talking to you too, though. It's always good. And I'm not early, but I'm actually gonna vote the day of.
Ooh, you bold. You bold.
You sound like my 86-year-old grandmother just told me that. I asked her, I said, Grandma, do you want me to come drive you to go early vote? Oh no, I vote on the day of. I go and they let me skip the line.
Nah, baby. I ain't doing that. But Rika said, I really appreciate all of you for backing down the information that some of us didn't know nor understood, because y'all, I will be digging deeper in my local officials. Awesome.
Dr. Ori.
You want to see your shirt, Brandon?
All power to the
Dr. Ori. Power.
Keep fighting. Come on, keep fighting the power.
Huey P. Newton. He was one of the founders of the Black Panther Party. He is also a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
Joni said really relearning about the Electoral College. She said she felt a little slow. I need to apologize to my American history teacher in middle school. So we really appreciate it. So listen, thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. It's our first time Champagne Conversation going live. But this is not the only time we will be going live once a month now. A lot of people have been asking, like, yo, like, I feel left out in the conversation. Rika said she's sick of autocorrect. She's like, I felt left out of the conversation, or I will feel like I would say this differently and all that. So we decided to go live once a month. I'm nervous because some of the things that we talk about, if you listen to the Black Man Experience, that some episodes will have to be pre-recorded because it can go there. It can go there, right? If you listen to the N-word, it went there. So there's going to be some episodes that's going to be pre-recorded, but there will be some episodes that's going to be live. So if you want to be a part of the conversation and you want to be one of us sitting on here talking, shoot me a message. Joni said, "Woo child, girl, it was a hot mess."
Brandon, Dr. Ori back in. Ask him the question about the.
Oh yeah. What's the term where voters vote for a candidate because of the way they look? I cannot think of the term for the life of me.
It was
in that term since Thursday. I just want to point that out. Since Thursday. Yeah. Thursday. So if he can answer that would be great, and that would be like our little sign off. But if you want to be a part of Champagne Conversation, hit the website www.champagneconvos.com and send us a message through there and let us know that you want to be a part of the conversation. We truly enjoy you. We will be having more real honest conversations. Champagne Conversation is a place where we can have transparent conversation, removing political correctness and saying what we got to say, right? But we saying it in love. But sometimes people go too far, i.e. Brandon. So we want to thank you. Is he going to respond?
So
Brandon, did you find a link?
What link?
To share the Electoral College in the States.
Oh, come on, Jasmine, always on it. Period. She pretty smart.
I'm gonna send it to you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Rika said we had this conversation already. Bet, Rika. I want to do a New Orleans Champagne Conversation. I want to do like a New Orleans version. Tristy said I learned more about voting outside of the presidential election. Awesome, Trish.
And you should. That is so
awesome.
Yes.
So again, thank you all so much. I greatly appreciate it. And you guys have an amazing night. Have a good day at work tomorrow. If you're working tomorrow, if you're not, chill out. Do what you got to do.
And it's always good to see my alumni of the Alpha Beta University.
Okay, wait, before everybody get off, hold up. Nobody click out. So Brandon has a talk show on Facebook called Brothers Vent 2. Let me tell you, it's ratchet, but it's amazing, okay? They're very, very diverse opinions. So Brandon, can you type in your thing? Brothers Vent 2. Y'all, make sure y'all check it out. It's every Friday at 8 p.m., right, Brandon?
8:15, yeah.
8:15. You watched it, Rika. You already know it's crazy. My favorite episode was like 2 weeks ago. But it's every Friday on Facebook and YouTube. They go live. Him and his Alpha Beta brothers. They're a hot mess. There's only 2 people that I actually really be agreeing with. The rest of them,
Oh, what?
you know what I'm saying? So thank you again so much, and I hope to see you guys soon. Cheers.
Vote.
Vote November 3rd. Your vote is your voice. Bye.
Bye.